Welcome back to another episode of Y2K Sports Talk. As always, we're going to be going over our big winners and big losers this time of week 6 and then previewing our Thursday night game between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. So let's get started.
So to jump into my biggest winners right now, I got Jackson Dart. I mean, Thursday Night Football, who would have expected to be, the Giants even winning, but let alone it was pure domination throughout the whole game. A part of me thought, oh, the Giants are getting up early. I feel like it might be one of those games where then the Eagles finally lock back in and then take it away. But
Yeah.
they kept getting beat up in both halves. Jackson Dart played a phenomenal game. Same with Scadaboo, so shout out to him. But Jackson Dart looks like he will be the future of the Giants. Another winner I got is George Pickens. I mean, dude, against the Panthers, this dude was looking like he was a top 2, top 3 receiver in the NFL. Everyone knew he was talented, and if he got a good quarterback, which he does now, that he was only up from there, and it's been showing. So hopefully the Cowboys get their extension done with him, but he's been a huge contributor, and now they have CeeDee Lamb back, so that's going to be huge. Another shout out is, or another big winner, in fact, actually is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we haven't talked about him because it's kind of been
Yeah.
whatever. But just this last game, man, they took out arguably the best team in the NFL in the Lions, and it wasn't like it was a really close game, like final score wise. I mean, the whole game honestly was close until towards the end. But Mahomes has been good all year. This has been one of his best years in recent in recent memory. And with his receiving room, you got to give it to him. A declining Kelsey, and then Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, they're stepping up finally. But now they get Rasheed Rice, so it's only up from here for them.
Yeah, Mahomes kind of
Yep.
snuck his way into the MVP race,
Yeah.
even with his receiver problem right now too.
Yeah.
So
Because he's not shying away from running the ball anymore, and that's definitely what's helping this team continue to win. So shout out to him and all that. Another big winner I have is Rico Dowdle. I mean, former Cowboy, calls him out, tells him to buckle up, and he goes in and puts over 200 total yards on him. You can't have it any better than that. He called a shot, he did it. Cowboys had no
yeah.
answer for him, and that was the reason why they lost. Um, I mean, yeah, like looking at, a stat sheet here, I mean, it's really insane because that's the most yards the Cowboys have let up this year, rushing wise. And it's to a former player. It's the most rushing yards a former Cowboy, they either running back or player in general has had against the Cowboys when it's their former team. So props to him and props to everybody on my big winners right now. I'm just gonna move on to the losers though. I have the Bills, the Lions, and the Eagles. I'm gonna put them all on the same graphic as you can see because these are three powerhouse teams that are supposed to be those might be the three in the NFL of what they're supposed to be, and they all lost to teams they should have won against. The Lions, with how the Chiefs have had struggles, the Lions should have won. The Eagles, they get beat up by the Giants, and the Bills, you get beat up by the Falcons. Whether that's the
Yeah.
Falcons finally stepping it up or the Bills are just really just not doing it good this year. Like, because my reasoning for that is the Falcons getting blown out literally by the Panthers, and then the Panthers, they're a bottom-ended team right now. Although they did get a win against Dallas, but it's just like you're the Bills. You're supposed to be
Yeah,
you're up here.
statistically they should
Yeah,
have.
statistically, you've been a top 3 team for the last how many years since Josh Allen's been in the league, and for you to go
Yeah.
get and just basically get dog walked by the Falcons, it's a big loss for all three big teams, and who knows what they're going to be able to do in the playoffs with how inconsistent everything has been during the season.
All right, so for my big winners and big losers, first off, I'm probably just going to rely on my notes to get me through this one. And it might sound a little bit robotic, but I was sick this last week, so I haven't been up to date on this week's football as much as the other weeks. But I do have everything in my notes. So just to start off, for my big winners, I have Jackson Dart like Jaden had. I mean, he led the Giants to a 34-17 win. I had the Eagles winning that game. Obviously, you saw our predictions last week, and I think I had the Eagles winning like 27-17. It was the other way around. So it was a huge win for Jackson Dart. I mean, Cam Scadaboo had 3 touchdowns. Let me see the stats here. He went 19 for 98 and 3 touchdowns. Jackson Dart went 17 for 25, 195, 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown, and no interceptions. Huge props to him in his third game to be like already putting up those stats is huge. I feel like Jackson Dart has so much potential, and I feel like they had every right to take him in the spot they did in the first round
Yeah,
instead of taking like Shador or whatever it may be. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Shador's career. But I remember after the draft, and we were all looking at the quarterbacks. We are looking at Dylan Gabriel and like Will Howard, Cam Ward, all these quarterbacks, Shador Sanders and Jackson Dart. I remember reading he was like the most consistent and looked the best in the camps after each draft, and he's proven that he already looks better than Cam Ward in his 3 starts. So I mean, Cam Ward has his own issues with this team, but I mean, the Giants are kind of a bottom team too, especially with he's doing this with Malik Neighbors out as well. So
yeah.
I feel like if Jackson Dart can, if he's a consistent quarterback and he stays healthy, he will be a star in this league. And hopefully the Giants can put some more pieces around him because obviously he just needs more help than just him. And then obviously Scadaboo's doing his thing, thankfully. And then hopefully Malik Neighbors plays up to the way he was playing before he got injured as well. So huge win for the Giants. Jackson Dart is my big winner. And then on the same sake of that game against the Eagles, I kind of have them as a big loser, which I'll just fit in right now. The Eagles look like one of the worst 4-win teams I've ever seen. I mean,
Agreed.
like, as much as I complain about the Eagles, but I mean, come on. I just feel like this year's kind of like proven me right. Let me.
They're barely skating by, dude, and the only reason
Exactly.
they're 4-1 is strictly the talent on that team. Because if they were doing what they're doing, play calling wise, and just like coaching in general, and they had like a mediocre team, they would be the Jets. And since
Yep.
they're really talented and everyone can acknowledge that, that's why they're able to scrape by and get these wins that they're getting. But you can't do that in the playoffs. So they have to
Exactly.
switch something up. With the rumors
Exactly.
of AJ Brown potentially getting traded. I mean, that may help the team a bit because since they are a run first team, usually those teams when they do pass, they usually pass to only like one ish guys, like receiver wise, and then the tight end or whatever. But we'll have to see what happens. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Saquon isn't having the year he had last year, and then we obviously know the Eagles' receiving threats and how their stats have been lower than they definitely should be, and then we know Jalen Hurts can't really throw the ball to save his life for the most part, or at least compared to his expectations. He's definitely not meeting them. So overall, and then clearly it's killing them. And like I think I said this last week, after they lost to Denver, but it was like with the way their offense is performing, they're bound to lose some games. So even though they were 4-0, I was kind of calling out their luck, and I was saying, man, they're 4-0, but they shouldn't be, and they're gonna lose these games. And guess what? They've now lost 2 in a row. And here, like I said with my notes, I mean, week one they beat Dallas, but guess what? If CeeDee Lamb makes the catch in that game, Eagles probably would have lost that game because that would that would have been a Dallas offense, which is clearly proven to be what it is, within the 15-yard line with like 2 minutes left or whatever. So they should have lost that week one game if it wasn't for a CD drop. Uh, Week two, I mean, they beat the Chiefs, with Hurts barely throwing over 100 passing yards and a Kelsey drop that happens to get tipped up into an interception. So that's also kind of some crazy luck there as well. And then week three, come back against the Rams. It was a game they should have lost. I mean,
yeah,
I think I had the
that's
Eagles
probably their
winning,
best game,
but yeah, that is probably
easily
the
their
best
best
game that I
game.
got to give them their props. I mean, like comebacks usually aren't luck. I mean, they usually have luck in them, but not purely based off of that. But it was kind of just like a crazy scenario there. And then week four, they beat Tampa, even though they didn't even complete a pass in the second half. And then yeah, now they've lost to Denver and New York. So it was bound to happen, like I said, and clearly I think there's more losses ahead. I think this is just going to be like a Super Bowl hangover for them, basically. But they got to figure something out before they lose more games. And even if they stay the way that they're at, and even win some more games, actually, I still don't think it's a top 5 team or even maybe like top 10. So for my next big winner, I got the Broncos. I mean, they almost lost to the Jets in London. So that's something a little bit scary that I didn't want to put them on my big winners list. But they came away with the W. The defense had 9 sacks. They held on. Justin Fields only had 45 passing yards. I mean, they barely won, but they still got the win, and they did have a good defensive performance.
If that offense steps it up, they'll actually be a huge
Yeah,
threat in the
if they're
playoffs.
hot, if
That
they're
defense is insane.
oh yeah, if the offense steps it up, they're gonna be a top five team in the league. If they like completely step it up, and yeah, so like I said, with Fields' 45 passing yards, if you want to include the sacks and all that, they had a total of negative 10 passing yards that whole game because he got sacked 9 times. So then they also only allowed 82 yards total. They're still behind the Chargers in the standings, but they're now level with them at 4-2, so they're keeping up with them. Obviously, Chargers got their win, but good job by them basically to not fall any farther. And their defense is absolutely amazing. So huge props to them. Um, Next up, I have the Chiefs. Once again, this is probably like the first time me talking about the Chiefs really this year, at least in like the big winner category. But I mean, they kind of showed like a lot of flashes of the old Chiefs team that we're used to seeing, and that even Rice wasn't even back yet that game. He's going to be back this week, but it looked like the same old Chiefs that we're used to seeing. They got the win 30-17. Mahomes went 22 for 30, 257, 3 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown as well. So four total. He didn't even throw an interception. Chiefs didn't even have a penalty. That's kind of all I got to say to that. This looks like the same old Chiefs team. So props to them to not fall any farther. They're now level at 500. They beat a good Lions team.
Yeah.
So props to them. And then I just have some shout outs here. I have a shout out for the Colts. Uh, come from behind, kind of like a comeback win against the Cardinals. The game shouldn't have been that close, especially since
Yeah.
Kyler Murray wasn't playing. But they got the win. They didn't, choke it away. They got the win. They hung on. Jonathan Taylor's playing amazing. Tyler Warren is playing amazing, and Daniel Jones clearly fits in the Colt system.
Yep.
It wasn't just like one or two games when I was talking about him, and I was like, I don't know what this Colts team is going to look like so far, but I mean, clearly with this 6 game sample of them, I think we're getting to the point where we know that they're real.
Yep.
Plus that they're number one in was like the point differential stat. They're like number one, and it's plus 80. So like when you take all their wins and then their one loss, they're plus 80 in their points above the other teams. So not only are they winning games, but they're blowing them out for the most
Yeah.
part.
They're winning on every level.
They're winning on every level. That's the best way to put that. So shout out to the Colts. Shout out to the Steelers beating the Browns 23-9. Rodgers has been good. DK has gotten a touchdown every single week,
Yeah.
besides week one.
Browns defense is good too. You put up
Browns
23.
defense was good, and they still put up
I
23.
mean, we saw what they did to the Packers offense.
Exactly, and they're in complete control of the AFC North right now. Because
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously sunk the Browns even deeper by just beating them. They sunk them even deeper in the standings in the
Yeah.
division. The Ravens lost, and the Bengals lost, so they're even more in the lead than they already were. Me and Jaden were kind of talking about the Ravens schedule kind of being easy from now on and them getting Lamar after this upcoming bye week. So even though as crazy as it is that the Ravens are like 1-5 right now, the Steelers do need to keep the gas
Yep.
pedal down. They
Yep.
can't get comfortable with their lead.
Yep.
It is Lamar Jackson. It is probably one of the top, or probably the best quarterback in the league, even. But either way, they got to keep the gas pedal down. Good for them so far with their lead in the division, but they can't get too comfortable with that lead, is what I'm saying, obviously.
Yeah.
Shout out DeAndre Swift. Had 180 total yards against the Commanders, and Bears got a huge win. And then
Yeah.
shout out Seahawks. Let me go through all these stats here. They had 7 sacks against the Jaguars. They had 33 pressures. They stopped ETN to 12 for 27, averaging only 2.3 yards a carry. Um, Demarcus Lawrence had 2 sacks. The Seahawks held the Jags to a season low in their points, yards, and rush yards. And then for the whole season for the Seahawks overall, they're only allowing 3.3 yards a rush, which would break their franchise record. and that ranks second in the NFL right now currently. And then their defense is second in rush yards allowed after contact, which after contact they're only allowing 1.2 yards right now, which is crazy, and that's just for the whole season. And then they're tied for first in rushing touchdowns allowed, allowing only 2 so far this season. And the last couple games, they've been without Julian Love and Witherspoon, and then they were without Woolen against Jacksonville this last week as well. So I mean, their D line completely won them the game against Jacksonville. I'm not going to put them as a big winner, but they definitely do get a huge shout out from me. Like I said, 7 sacks. Jags, who only had one loss, and they're in their own home too. The Jags
Yeah,
are in their own home, and they only scored 12 points. And even though the Seahawks offense wasn't really that good in the second half. It was their defense that, you know, did their job that kept them in. That Seattle didn't have to score more points because it was
yep,
20-6 for a lot of that second half, and then they allowed a touchdown in the fourth. But they held on. The defense won them the game. Hopefully, they can get their secondary back, basically. And this offense is already like a top 10
yeah, dude.
offense in the league.
Shout out
So
JSN on the pace he's on.
yeah, shout out JSN. He's bound to break Calvin Johnson's record at this pace he's on. So, huge shout out all around for them. And then for my big losers, I have the Bills. I mean, I had the Bills winning that game. And once again, we were kind of saying there's like no star teams in this season. There's not really like one easy star team that you could bring up. Because even though I think the Eagles are like the worst 4-win team right now, the Bills are really, I don't want to say bad 4-win team, but they're definitely on the lower end. If they played the 49ers, I would have the 49ers winning, even with all their injuries, maybe depending on a who's at home situation. But either way, the Bills aren't looking very good anymore. I had them winning, like I said. They couldn't stop anything to save their life. I didn't see the whole game, but I did see like a majority of the second half, and then obviously I did my research of the highlights and all that. But I mean, Bijan Robinson, man, I mean, 19 for 170, a touchdown, averaging 8.9 yards per carry and 68 receiving yards. That's 238 total yards by their running back. So the Bills defense has got to step it up. They got to maybe make a move here and pick someone up, but they're still good at 4-2, but they're trending in the wrong direction because they just lost their division lead to New England. And when they play New England again, who already has a 1-0 lead on them in the season series, they're going to go to New England because Bills already lost their home game against them.
Yeah.
So, Bills aren't necessarily screwed, but they're trending in that direction. And this was a very winnable game. And like you said, this was against a Falcons team who put up 0 against the Panthers. So they couldn't stop the Falcons to save their life, and I think they only scored like 14 points that game too. Either way, their offense wasn't there, their defense wasn't there. It was embarrassing, considering the Bills' expectations, and they do got to fix things up. The Falcons did get 450 total yards. London went 10 for 158 and a touchdown. Um, yeah, and now the Patriots have the lead. So who would have expected that? But I mean, it's also kind of like as
Back to
much
2018.
exactly, and as much as I have big loser to the Bills, I'm going to be given the same huge shout out for a win for the Patriots of what they've done to now take the lead over the Bills this far into the season. I know it's not too far, but saying that you have a division lead over the Bills, which no one expected, is crazy. And then, like I said, considering the season series, so huge props to them. And that finishes off my winners and losers.
So getting into our Thursday night football predictions, I have the Steelers beating the Bengals 30-17. It's just with how the Bengals are, I mean, and the Steelers, they're on such a fire track upwards, and the Bengals are just downwards. I mean, they're gonna put up points regardless because of the receivers they have, which is why I have them scoring at least 2 touchdowns. But when will those touchdowns come? They might come one come early, one later. But I don't see this game really being too close, and if it is, it'll be early, and then it'll just get taken
Yeah.
away. Rodgers and everybody's just, they're locking in. The Bengals defense is still struggling as well. They didn't get too much better, at least in the corner area. But yeah, dude, that Steelers team, they're showing like, they're competing, they're up, they have so much momentum going up, and they know that they cannot put, any type of slack because the Ravens can catch up to them knowing how easy their schedule gets. So I do have the Steelers winning that, and I do think that it's going to be a long season for Bengal fans.
All right, and so for my Thursday night prediction, I have the Steelers winning 24-17. I do have it being a little bit closer. That tends to be how the divisional games go, and then with Bengals at home. But even though I have the Steelers only winning by 7, I feel like it's gonna be one of those games where it feels like the Steelers dominated and completely beat them everywhere, all around the field, offense, defense, and special teams. Looking at the Bengals' stats here, I mean, even with Joe Flacco, I mean, it's obviously only a second start. Um, but I mean, the Bengals have so many problems. I mean, they had Browning, and now they have Flacco, and you know, Flacco, Flacco's like all right, but he's nothing crazy. He can get you some wins here and there, but considering the Steelers' momentum right now, and then like you had said, like the Steelers definitely should have the gas pedal down right now in their division more than they already do. So I feel
Yep.
like that's just going to give them even more momentum and confidence to keep the gas pedal down and win and not look back behind them. Um, but the Bengals offense, even with the new Joe Flacco, either way, it's clearly hasn't had the star power like it had with Joe Burrow on the team, healthy. But their offense is 32nd in total yards. The Bengals, they're 30th in passing yards. They're 32nd in rushing yards a game, tied for 29th in points a game, and their third down percentage is 23rd. So like overall, anything on offense isn't very great. And then when you thought it couldn't get any worse, let's look at their defense. They're 31st in total yards allowed. They're 31st in passing yards allowed, 28th in rushing yards allowed, 30th in points allowed, and 29th in their third down percentage on what they allowing teams to convert on third downs 46% of the time. So clearly, all the way around the Bengals. This season's kind of like a throwaway. I feel like, I had hope for them winning a few games here and there until Joe Burrow came back. But based on the mood right now, I mean, they're certainly trying getting Joe Flacco. But I mean, now with Trey Hendrickson missing last game and him being questionable for the Thursday game, who really knows? They might just shut down the season and go for a draft pick. I'm not going to put words in the Bengals' mouth. But overall, it doesn't look good for them. And then when you compare that to the Steelers team, who I feel like is one of the lower end 4-win teams in this league, but they still have some star power. It's still Aaron Rodgers. We were talking about how good Metcalf was playing. But overall, I expect the Bengals to get ran on completely with Jalen Warren. Like I said, they were like 32nd in rushing yards allowed. I think the Bengals are going to get ran over. Like I said, I still think it's going to be a close game because that's just how these games go. But overall, the Steelers are the better team, even though they're on the road. Who cares? They are going to overpower the Bengals. So that's why I have 24-17.
All right. We hope you guys liked today's video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe, check out our other videos and everything. Check out our Instagram. We just posted our week 7 picks and what we think is going to happen. Please look forward to next week's video after week 7 to see our biggest winners and losers and do everything. So we hope you guys enjoy and thank you for watching.